From a man who is now not legally allowed to come within 500 feet of City Hall, this is The Daniel Natal Show. Garland Nixon had a tweet that interested me. White House insiders say internal reports predict a complete economic collapse in EU within months, but Russia ought to be pretty much okay. There was no follow-up or context to the chatter he was reporting, but I wonder if it's related to the phenomenon that historians have long known about. When an empire is in decline, its capital never collapses first. It rots from the outside in, like frostbite. To protect your most vital organs, your body shuts down function of your extremities. So in the event of imperial collapse, it's the outlying provinces that fall first before the tsunami sweeps into the homeland. We've done several previous videos on the petrodollar system experiencing decay and possible decline due to the Federal Reserve's hyperinflation. This fact affects everything else. A friend of mine from the Central Bank of Canada sent me a white paper that had just come out from the Fed. It was entitled Measuring Geopolitical Risk by two Italian economists, Dario Caldara and Matteo Iacoviello. They write, "We present a monthly indicator of geopolitical risk based on a tally of newspaper articles covering geopolitical tensions and examine its evolution and effects since 1985. The geopolitical risk, GPR index, spikes around the Gulf War, around 9/11, during the 2003 Iraq invasion, during the 2014 Russia-Ukraine crisis, and after the Paris terrorist attacks. High geopolitical risk leads to a decline in real activity, lower stock returns, and movements in capital flows away from emerging economies and towards advanced economies." This last sentence bears repeating. Geopolitical risk leads to movements of capital flows away from emerging economies and towards advanced economies. What this means is that if you're a rich guy in Pakistan and a civil war breaks out, you're going to want to get your money out of the country as fast as possible. So the tendency is to transfer it to a safe haven in the West, to a bank in Switzerland or Germany or the United States, for instance. This will be true of instability in various forms, from uprisings in Egypt to calamities in Colombia to insurgencies in Indonesia. All the wealthy people shift their assets from the developing world to the first world. So global instability is beneficial to a Western economic system that's currently hemorrhaging. The more instability that can be induced abroad, the more cash flows into the Western financial system. But there's a cost. The white paper addresses it, saying, "We then turn our analysis to the role that geopolitical risk plays for the macroeconomy. Using vector autoregressive models estimated on U.S. data, we find that an increase in geopolitical risk induces persistent declines in industrial production, employment, and international trade, and that both economic policy uncertainty and consumer confidence enhance the transmission of geopolitical risk shocks. We also document that stock returns experience a short-lived but significant drop in response to higher geopolitical risk. The stock market response varies substantially across industries, with the defense sector experiencing positive excess returns, and with sectors exposed to the broader economy, for instance steelworks and mining, experiencing negative returns." This last line was interesting. Steel and mining will be hurt by inducing global instability. Economist Adam Smith said in 1776 that there were three ways to cultivate the value of land. One was to grow food on it, one was to build houses on it, and one was to engage in mining. Gordon Long said something along these lines when he said there's three ways to create wealth. You can build it, you can grow it, or you can mine it, but you can't print it. Money is not true wealth. It's just a promise of future productivity. It's a claim check. So it's scary that one of the industries hamstrung by global instability is mining. So much tech depends on elements that are mined, like your GoPro camera, your cell phone, the chips that allow your car to run. If you cripple mining, you injure dozens of other industries. So what Wall Street is doing is sabotaging our real economy to get an infusion of monopoly money to stanch their bleeding. By the way, the intelligence community calls economic warfare MARKINT, which stands for market intelligence. It's a discipline used by the United States intelligence community that focuses on intelligence gathered from the global capital markets. Another indicator of panic was brought to our attention by journalist Pepe Escobar. Perhaps channeling the White House staff who were chattering about the coming EU economic collapse, he writes, "If the U.S. goal is to crush Russia's economy with sanctions and isolation, why is Europe in an economic freefall instead? The stunning spectacle of the EU committing slow-motion harakiri is something for the ages. Like a cheap Kurosawa remake, the movie is actually about the Empire of Lies' detonated demolition of the EU, complete with subsequent rerouting of some key Russian commodities exports to the U.S. at the expense of the Europeans. It helps to have a fifth columnist actress strategically placed, in this case astonishingly incompetent European Commission head, Ursula von der Leyen, with a brand new vociferous announcement of an extra sanctions package. Russian ships banned from EU ports. Road transportation companies from Russia and Belarus prohibited from entering the EU. No more coal imports, over 4.4 billion euros a year. That translates in practice to the Empire of Lies shaking down its wealthiest Western clients/puppets. Russia, of course, is too powerful militarily. The empire badly needs some of its key exports, especially minerals. Mission accomplished in this case amounts to nudging the EU into imposing more and more sanctions and willfully collapsing their national economies, allowing the US to scoop everything up. So what we're watching is the US sabotaging Europe in a bid to steal their natural resources. This, plus instigating global insecurity to channel capital flows into the United States, tells you how desperate they are to try to keep the flagging system going for a little longer. As I said at the outset, when an empire starts to crumble, it never happens from the inside out. It always happens at the extremities, like gangrene working its way inward until the vital organs are hit and the organism finally succumbs. Or more to the point, like a starving man whose stomach starts to cannibalize its own cells. A collapsing EU is a bad sign for everyone who still has stock in the American empire, because it presages the fact that the tsunami is sweeping westward. Floaters, grab a life vest. Our freedoms are under attack, yet the loss of freedom is not inevitable. America can be saved, and an informed citizenry can and will make the difference. Join us weekly for episodes of Beyond the Cover, and check out our print magazine too at thenewamerican.com.